Hey everyone, it's Anzel again, and I'm back. Today we'll be taking a brief look at the KBD67 Lite from KBDFans, and why I think you need to take a serious look at this board if you're looking to get into the hobby without breaking the bank. Now, I know that there are a million other reviews on this board out there, but I just really want to make sure that I had a good feel for this board before making this review. And to get a feel for this board, I think you have to daily drive it long term while also switching it out with other boards so that you get a feel for that board and how it compares to those other boards. So in light of that, I've actually been using this board for about 2 months or so, daily driving it, switching it out with other boards to get a feel for it. And now I think I'm ready to give my thoughts on it. So just some quick background info. This is a 65% keyboard from KBDFans, and it is aimed at being a budget board that is easily accessible to beginners while also being high quality. At just $110, or roughly $130 after shipping, the KBD67 Lite offers a value proposition that seems to be unmatched given its quality and feature set. Taking a closer look at the board, it has a tasteful right-sided blocker that you typically see in other 65% keyboards. It has relatively thin bezels, and the typing degree is at about 6 degrees, which is very comfortable in my opinion. The case is made out of injection molded ABS plastic, and some do consider this a con, as most other entry boards tend to be polycarb. It uses a polycarbonate plate and utilizes the KBD67 Mark II hot swap PCB. Although there are quite a few other compatible solder/hot swap PCBs that you can use, so don't feel like you're locked into this PCB. It's just really accessible to beginners in my opinion. It even comes with both plate and PCB foam, although technically silicone isn't a foam, whatever. Now what's cool about this is that the plate and silicone layer files are actually open source, so I can actually see third parties creating their own spin on what plate this board can utilize in the future. Now it comes with KBDFans' own stabilizers, which we'll talk about later. This is specific to R2 of this board, not R1. The board also comes in this fantastic little carrying case that I really like. I think it's really nice for the price. The board also comes with a coiled cable, which in my opinion isn't particularly good, but it works. I would have preferred their typical straight and braided cable that they give with their other boards, but to be honest, this works just fine. Now, the most important feature that they've been marketing about this board, and what makes this board really unique, especially at its price, is the gasket mount. Well, kind of. It's not your typical tabbed isolation gasket mount, nor is it your typical O-ring gasket mount that you would see in other boards, but rather the silicone layer that goes between the PCB and plate is what is friction fitted between the top and bottom case assemblies, giving it a quote-unquote gasket-like mount. Now, I have seen a lot of people talk about this like it's a negative, saying it's not a true gasket mount, but honestly, if it works, why even complain? And in the case of the KBD67 Lite, it works incredibly well. It is strikingly similar to Rama's mute mount design that you can see implemented in many of their own boards, such as the U80, M65B, and more notably, their Rama Kara, another budget board. Honestly, I don't think I've ever seen anyone talk negatively about the mounting systems implemented in those keyboards, so I don't see a reason to talk about it negatively in the case of the KBD67 Lite, especially when it's done well. Other than the fact that the plate still makes some mild contact with the case at times, it's not something that you will really notice, and if anything, it's just slightly misleading by the marketing. But again, it works incredibly well, and if you really want to, you can actually mount this with D65 gasket strips, so if you want a quote-unquote true gasket experience, you can do that on your own time. And if you guys want to see me do that, I've been planning on it, don't know when I'm going to do it, but just let me know in the comments below if you do want to see that. Now moving on to the build quality, which I'm sure you're all curious about given its price and the fact that it's made out of plastic. What is it like? Well, honestly, it's just kinda meh. Now don't get me wrong, it still feels solid, and it feels better than some stacked acrylic builds, and it is miles ahead of any GK61, but it's nothing to write home about if I'm being completely honest. It feels good enough. So the fact that it's made out of plastic actually just makes it unbearably light. Yes, it's convenient when transporting and moving it around, but when you use it, it actually slides around way too much, and it makes it feel just a bit cheap. For me, I never put the rubber bump-ons on any of my keyboards because I trust them to be heavy enough to not move so much, and I like sliding my keyboards around for easy maneuverability on my desk. It's just really convenient for me. But in the case of this board, I had to put the rubber bump-ons or else it just moved way too much without them. And another thing is, in terms of assembly, the fact that the rear screws near the top of the case can't be accessed with a screwdriver that utilizes bits is pretty annoying, but at the very least, KBDFans does supply their own screwdriver, which is plenty annoying on its own given its design, but better to have it than not, right? Now in terms of aesthetics, I think the board actually looks really cool, and it would look even cooler if they offered it in more translucent colors such as purple, but that's just me. At the very least, the backlit RGB is pretty nice from the top down, although on the sides, because they are only upwards firing RGBs, it doesn't look too good, but I don't mind it. I think it looks okay. So if you're into RGB, this isn't too bad if you're into that. It's also got a bit of an industrial feel in terms of the aesthetics because of its translucent look, but other than that, it is a fairly simple and non-offensive design that I think most people would enjoy. Other than that Comic Sans logo on the bottom. Don't do that. Only villains do that. Now, one thing that I like is that the assembly screws are actually tapped with aluminum or some kind of metal, I don't know, but they're tapped so that you won't wear them out anytime soon. Now, you shouldn't over tighten the case still, and you should be a little bit careful because you don't want to crack the case. I know some other people that have gone through that issue, but not too many worries there if I'm being completely honest. So aesthetics wise, not too bad. Now, the included stabs, no, I'm not about them. So they're good, except for the spacebar, right? So for the shorter ones, like the backspace, shift, and enter, perfect. They work fine, just lube them like normal with XHD, BDZ, and 205 and you're chilling. But for the spacebar, I tried everything. I Holee-modded it, I didn't Holee-mod it, I just lubed it. There's a lot of friction on the downstroke. Don't know what it is. I think it's their weird design with the feet on the stem. I really don't know. So I just took them out and I put in some new Durock V2s, which I Holee-modded and everything, and those felt a million times better. I don't know, maybe it was just my unit. I haven't seen too many other people complain about it, but at the same time, most of the reviews that I have watched on this board were of the round one, which included different stabilizers, so who knows? Maybe this is a KBDFan's thing. But for the space, that's the only one I had issues with the other ones, no issues there. And now, the typing experience. It feels pretty darn good. It's not flexible by any means, and the flex that you see in this clip is more due to the entire case just being a little bit flimsy and the case sinking into the desk mat. It is a tiny bit flexible, but nothing that you would ever be able to really perceive when using it. However, it's still a very soft bottom mount compared to other boards that have stiffer plates or boards that are tray mount because of that uneven mounting system. Either way, it still feels pretty good and pretty soft, but don't expect it to be bouncy like the Jelly Epoch or something else like that. Now, for this board, you can screw the plate and the PCB together to make a more secure assembly, but I personally decided not to do that in order to promote a more even and softer typing experience, and it worked. It actually felt a little bit better in my opinion. The alphas feel and sound fairly even, and it is slightly harsher around the points where you would screw in the PCB to the plate, but honestly, no worries. I might remove those standoffs myself in the future and see what comes of that, but for now, I'm chilling. Now, this board is still a very enjoyable typing experience regardless of that, and I think it strikes a welcome balance between typing on something stiff like an Idobao ID80 versus something ridiculously soft and flexible like a half-plate Singa Unicorn. And finally, the sound. The thing that I think all of you care about the most. In my opinion, it sounds friggin' amazing. It sounds incredibly deep compared to other boards at this price point while simultaneously sounding very clean and crisp. An issue with some really deep sounding boards made of plastic is that you get a lot of hollowness and resonance and you have to foam it up, but not with this board. There's a tiny bit of resonance and hollowness, mainly within the WASDA cluster and the number row, but it's fairly minimal in my opinion. Yes, it sounds just a tiny bit cheap, and I'm not sure if that's just a placebo effect for me knowing it's made out of plastic and it costing $110, but other than that, the sound is deep, full, really clean for the most part, which is remarkable at this price point. Especially the spacebar, like oh my god, it sounds so good. In fact, take a listen right here. This is the sound test with JWICK Blacks, lubed and filmed. So Would I recommend this board? Now, there are other fantastic options out there like the Bake Neko, Iki68, and FB60, and all of those have their own specific features that may make you want to go for those rather than this, the KBD67 Lite. But at this price point, the KBD67 Lite is a tried and true board with many reviews, and you absolutely cannot go wrong going for this board at this price. Yes, you gotta change out the stabilizer on the spacebar, and yeah, it's a bit light and cheap feeling, but so are other boards at this price point. And that doesn't change the fact that it's an incredible board for the price. And I think that beginners would absolutely love it, and it's a blast for them to build. I myself will probably use this board from time to time despite having many other boards like a Jelly Epoch or a Savage 65, so definitely take that into account. I definitely recommend this board, and it gets my seal of approval. So I hope y'all enjoyed, and stay tuned for my next video where I review the aluminum upgrade to this board, the KBD67 V3, and where I tell you whether or not it's worth it to upgrade. So until then, thanks for watching, and peace.